Yes.
And the people that serve there.
Great.
And as a result, we will be nominating the historic district to go into the National Historic Registry.
And that's the sort of the central area, Oceanport, Eatontown.
The main post area off of Oceanport Avenue. It's been said, actually, by the mayor of Oceanport that he would like to drive down Oceanport Avenue 30 years from now and look into that main post area and have it look the same as it does today. And that's the way we've built our plan.
So the main parade ground will be preserved and all of the historic structures will be preserved?
Yeah, that's a designated historic district. The state of New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office just signed a programmatic agreement with the Army on all the guidelines for how they're going to maintain that historic district and how we're going to treat those buildings within the district.
Would they still be reused, or would they be museums? Or?
Oh, they'll definitely be reused. In fact, the housing over there we consider to be market rate housing. Right. The Army has done a magnificent job at maintaining those buildings. I myself would move into one of those homes. They've got beautiful hardwood floors, fireplaces. They've been very well maintained, and they're nice-looking buildings.
Armen, I think it's important to note here that that my comment about open space for the public, I think, is reflected in this plan because there's in excess of 500 acres of open space out of 1,126.
That's great.
Yes.
And that will be. Does that include Gibbs Hall, the golf course?
It includes the golf course. Yes.
And what other areas?
Well, there are large tracts of open space along the waterways and green belt areas have been created with walking paths, with biking paths, etc. And so I think we spent a great deal of time with our consultant ensuring that the public would have access to this, what I consider to be really a quite lovely piece of property.
So they won't just put housing along the waterfront there or marina?
No, on the contrary. There is not very much housing in proximity to the waterways at all. In fact, what we've created are walkways along those waterways to open it up.
You hear things about perhaps changing road configurations or perhaps adding railroad stops or stations and reconfiguring that. Has there been any change in that department?
Well, certainly a redevelopment of this nature is going to introduce a certain amount of traffic. And we've taken steps in our plan to mitigate that traffic, both locally and outreaching as we go forward. Public transportation, creating nodes of public transportation is an essential part of this redevelopment. And I think it would be woefully lacking without public transportation. We will continue to work towards bringing the appropriate public transportation to this redevelopment.
You've also heard, or I've heard, that there's a possibility that for some towns like Eatontown that don't really have a municipal, a center or a town center type environment, that maybe that's something that could be developed. So for Tinton Falls or for Eatontown or Oceanport, for a true town center, a municipal center. Is that something that's in the plan?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, each of the communities has indicated a desire to create a town center. Certainly Eatontown already has one, but their building is somewhat limited in size, and so they're looking to the facilities that may be available to them on the fort proper. Oceanport, again, they are interested in creating a new municipal center within the fort boundaries, whereas Tinton Falls has a brand new municipal building. It lent itself to the redevelopment because what the plan reflects, and I hope people will go to our website, which by the way is www.nj.gov/FMERPA, which is our acronym. You will see in there that we've extended the development out in a horseshoe shape coming out of the municipal building and created a downtown area in effect. So yes, your comment is very accurate.
Mr. Harrison, how do we keep jobs and how do we create new jobs in Fort Monmouth? It seems like an extremely difficult task. You have this engine of economic activity, Fort Monmouth, that's closing. Where do we find these 5,000 high-tech jobs, or how do we retain them?
Number of components to that answer. We believe we're going to make this a special place. It's going to be branded. It's going to have a theme. Frank already mentioned live, work, play. we're embarking on a serious effort for what we're calling tenant attraction and tenant development. And we will be outreaching globally to find companies that might be interested in coming here. And it's different than just moving into a building, say, on Industrial Way. Companies are looking for, the most critical asset is an intelligent workforce. And we believe that the folks that are going to be left behind, not moving to Aberdeen, represent that intelligent workforce that companies are going to be looking for to get their hands on. Second of all, they look for places where they can bring people in who can live in close proximity, not have to worry about jumping in a car to go to work. Those people are going to be looking to have entertainment and recreation available to them locally. We're going to package that all into this, and it is packaged into this redevelopment. Certainly, it's not going to be an easy job, but that's a major function that we're embarking on very heavily in the upcoming months.
I take it the economy's improving would help your chances.
Most certainly. And one other critical thing here, there are a lot of very special facilities existing there at the
That's
fort.
true.
Some very special facilities that would cost a lot of money for a company to go out and retrofit a building for or build new. For example, the McAfee Center is about 15 years old. It's a state-of-the-art building. It contains 2 anechoic chambers. One of them is large enough to bring in a Black Hawk helicopter or a tank.
I have no idea what that is.
Anechoic, it's anechoic, echo. What it does, it shuts out any frequency of spectrum from going in or out
So a private,
of the chamber.
private contractor, somebody could have a use for a chamber like that.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting, to piggyback what Rick said, is we've been contacted by a number of companies that are interested, want to be kept abreast of our progress, and we are in touch with these people, and will continue to foster a potential transfer of their business here. So it's not like we're starting from scratch.
So there's been interest shown.
Oh, absolutely. There's interest shown. There's been interest shown in the golf course, et cetera. Now, there's a bit of distance between the cup and the lip here, but we're on the case.
To wrap up, give me some idea about timelines. I mean, this is a 20-year plan.
Yes.
We know the fort's closing in 2011, and that most of the jobs will have, to the extent they're not retained here or something else doesn't intervene, they're leaving. When do you think this plan will start to be implemented?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the prospect of the negotiations that come up very, very soon. As we're formed into an implementation authority in the coming weeks, we will, as I said, formulate our strategies to discuss with the federal government. Once the property starts to dispose, in other words, the disposition takes place, then we're in a position really to start talking with prospective developers and with prospective tenants. So I do think that you'll start to see some activity the latter part of this year and will flow through. We don't have to wait until September of 2011 to start what we need to do.
Well, I want to thank you both. You have a very difficult job. I know you're doing it well, and I know everyone in the county wishes you well in what you're doing. So that's all the time we have for this episode. I'd like to thank our guests for this informative discussion. Join us next time for Outlook Monmouth, and thank you both very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.